So, we're doing these again, in case you're not in the loop. Obviously with Owen and his schedule in the dough of all land, something like that, I'm going to be doing these taped things rather than live podcasts and everything, so deal with it how you will. This one, as maybe in the title, is the indie wrap-up, but there will be a lot of news in this one as well, so I guess I have to put Indian news wrap-up in the title. Note to self, when I finish recording this video. If I even watch it back, which I don't, because I normally just send it off because it's one take and done. So obviously we've got a lot to cover, because not everything what we mentioned last week had time to, because of everything that we did. So the news from the Observer for the past couple of weeks that we haven't been able to cover. So apparently Lucha Underground's got a new TV deal in India with D Sport, which means they are actually getting international deals in terms of their television product, which is ahead of probably some of the companies ahead of them, like New Japan or CMLL in Mexico or Ring of Honor. So, and speaking of GFW, because obviously international deals, they've announced that the streaming service is going to be called the Global Wrestling Network, and that they'll be putting up the Impact shows on there, available for free. And apparently on it, they're also going to be putting up some sort of shows from the Crash, Pro Wrestling, Noah and AAA, because of their partnerships and everything, so who knows. Just having a quick look, see if there's anything else, because there might not be. Oh, of course Snoop Dogg was at the WWE 2K party. Of course he was. Why am I not surprised? Also, in terms of Meltzer's ratings, unsurprisingly, one of the highest ones was the Uso New Day tag team match, along with Rollins and Ambrose beating Cesaro and Sheamus, and AJ and Owens, and the four-way main event, unsurprisingly. Although it is worth noting that the lowest rating on any of the NXT shows was 3 3/4 stars for the tag title match between Sanity and Authors of Pain. Asuka and Ember Moon got 4.5. Every other match got 4 1/4. The rest of the SummerSlam matches, I see 2.5, 3.5, 2, 3, 1, not even rated. You can guess that that's Orton and Rusev. 3, 2 3/4, 3 3/4 I mentioned with AJ and whatever. And 2.5 for Jinder and Nakamura. What a great main event that was, Daniel. So from the last week's one, because obviously I'm recording this on Wednesday, so it's not even out yet, the latest one for the upcoming week. The Triple Mania gate apparently was only around $625,000, so they were trying to get $1 million. They were nowhere near it, so what's going on there? Interesting thing from CMLL, they had a press conference last week that they've worked out a deal with Segura Popular Insurance, which means all the wrestlers, all the referees, all the vendors, and anybody that works at their Arena Mexico shows will actually be insured. Atlantis, who was also at the press conference, noted that the promotion already covered in-ring injuries, but now this will extend to medical coverage for illnesses or injuries that occur outside the ring. So that's a nice little touch. Santino had what he insists is his last wrestling match for Destiny Wrestling. We didn't have the results for it last week, but it popped up in the newsletter stuff. Basically after the match, Morello cut a promo saying it was definitely his last match because his neck can't take the punishment, and that he only wanted to do it because he just wanted to be announced for his to be announced from Mississauga, Ontario, rather than obviously Italy or anything. So that's a nice touch. GFW and Pop TV have signed a new agreement to continue carrying the show in 2018. So, good news, they're not moving anywhere. Bad news, I don't know whether the viewership's going to be going anywhere near up. We'll have to see. There are reports that Alberto's going to be coming back to GFW in November. With the idea currently being that he's going to come back as a heel against the company to do the whole idea that, why was he suspended? That took an interesting twist within the last 24, 48 hours, depending when you see the video. So, it's worth touching. Now, this is interesting as well. Whether this happens or not, the current plans are for the WWE UK show to begin before the end of the year. They're still trying to work things out in terms of tapings and what they're going to be doing. Reportedly, though, the original tournament was a big money loser. I don't know if that was in terms of not enough people picking up the network or the venue where they were and all the production that went into it. Which part of me feels, well, you chose not an appropriate venue. Now that you know that British wrestling is clearly popular, probably proven by the fact that the Shikara show I went to, which I'll get to in a minute, or get to a little later, I should say, was pretty full. Because you did have Strong Style, along with, other teams and people that wanted, wrestlers that people wanted to see. But certainly the shows have been getting more busy, and I think if you put it in not a stupidly small building, but in a medium-sized, couple of thousand seats, where you could probably get a lot more tickets sold, I think there's a lot better that they can do there. So let's hope that's a thing. WWE's inked to deal with Flow 1 in the Caribbean. So now the Caribbean's going to be getting Raw and SmackDown Live as well, apparently. Sami Zayn's now raised $70,000 for his Sami for Syria campaign. We're trying to get the mobile clinic set up, which is now up and running, I believe. So congrats to him and everything. And interesting as well, Dave notes here, the Corbin D-push wasn't because of his Twitter conduct, although it didn't help situations. And he just said it was a different situation outside the ring that happened a few weeks ago. We now know what that is. We'll get to it. One of the rumours going around for the headline act for the Hall of Fame in 2018 is Batista. But basically, he's on reserve because if Undertaker's up for it, he'd be way more important to put in first, as the same goes for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as well. So, I'll have to see. So the Performance Center was doing sort of NFL combine like tests for like speed and strength and agility and whatever. Otis Dozovich did a 775-pound deadlift. He is swole. That's all I'm saying. He is swole. So really, that's all that came out of that. So other news. Some of it is from FOW, some of it's from other places. So actually, quite a bit of it is from the Cubs fan. So the thing that I forgot to mention last week in all the crazy stuff regarding, I might as well say just Sexy Star, because I can't be bothered to actually get emotional about it anymore. The crash, sort of within hours or at the same time roughly as the main event of Triple Mania, announced that Rush and Pieroth are going to be working in the promotion. Interestingly, as Crash people, but also as CMLL people. They're going over basically because of permission and wouldn't be working in any other promotions. Basically, it seems to be teasing they're going to be having Penta El Zero Miedo taking on Rush. They have confirmed, though, there is going to be a hair versus hair match versus Bestia 666 and Jack Evans on November the 4th in Tijuana, as well as announcing a Guadalajara show on the 3rd of November and a Mexico City show on the 11th. And in terms of CMLL sort of news that came out, Octagon is in the main event. Now, the big thing about that is Octagon left CMLL to help found AAA. And, you know, basically anybody that was involved in the forming of AAA was for long time basically considered persona non grata because of, you know, starting up the rival promotion. So, you know, the fact that all of a sudden he's back, it's an interesting little touch, I'd say, probably. Let's see if there's anything else. So apparently, you know, because obviously that was last week, he did actually win in his return. It was a trios match with him, Mystico, and Volador Jr. beating Gran Guerrero, Kojima, and Ultimo Guerrero. And I don't see anything else. So that happened. The WWE might be doing a Rock clothing line because they've just applied for a trademark in terms of the Rock for clothing purposes. The Bellas are doing Bella wine. Insert your jokes there. I briefly mentioned, I think a few weeks back, the Amateur Wrestling Championships. So Ali Reagan of the US got a silver medal for the second straight year, with the US tying with Belarus for second place. And then, in the damn big one, arguably, Kyle Snyder beat Russia's Abdul-Rashid Sadalev with 24 seconds left, not only to win the World Championship at 213 pounds, but also win the team championship for the US of A. Now, this match is basically this match, I guess, is sort of the equivalent of Mayweather and Pacquiao, if you're into your boxing stuff. So basically, Kyle Snyder is two-time NCAA champ and took Olympic gold back in Rio. But Sadalev was considered the best pound-for-pound wrestler in the world, who hadn't lost a match since the age of 17, so 4 years. And took world titles against adults at the age of 18 and 19 before winning a gold medal at the 189-pound level in Rio as well. Basically, he moved up a weight class with the goal of obviously beating Snyder. And I mean, it was, from what I've heard, it really was good. And you know, if you can see highlights of it, if you are into your amateur wrestling, it's been very well talked about, so that's good to see. Which probably means one or two of those guys will be hired by somebody if they do want to go into professional wrestling, where no gold medals are given, so it's that professional. I quickly did a side mention for this. I think, if not, if I've already mentioned it, so be it. Eddie Edwards became the first Gaijin to win Pro Wrestling Noah's GHC heavyweight title, winning the title at Kurikan Hall. I believe the show probably is available to watch somewhere online, because it did get broadcast on TV this past weekend. So interestingly, afterwards, because I don't think I mentioned this bit, Namuchi Marufuji came out afterwards and challenged Eddie to a title match, and that'll be happening October the 1st. So be happening in a little bit. So now we've got all the injuries. So Samoa Joe is out for a bit due to a knee injury that he suffered at most likely the Saturday night house show from a week last Saturday in Arkansas. Hence why he isn't there. Xavier, basically, he was on an Up Up Down Down live stream of Windjammers last Tuesday, and noted that he suffered an MCL sprain, during which Becky Lynch said that she had the same injury recently and recovered while wrestling through it. As it was, because if you remember, for last week's SmackDown, he had a sign round his neck that said "it's sore." So he's basically acknowledging it and everything, which is nice and all. Yet more news on Monsieur Cena. He's been cast as a lead voice actor in the animated YouTube Red series Dallas and Robo. Being described as a space adventure and buddy comedy centering around sassy space trucker Dallas and self-proclaimed warrior poet Robo, who must navigate their way around cannibal bikers, rival space truckers, and vending machine burritos as they try to make a buck in the CD world of interplanetary big rigging. It'll be debuting in 2018, and Cena is actually exec producer on it as well, so that's pretty interesting. Oh, and after everybody complained about Emma's theme, not the new one, the old new one, CFO $sign clarified that wasn't their song. Don't moan at them. I don't know whether the current one is. We'll have to see. That's moving then to next week. So one of the big news from this week, JBL announcing on Friday that he's stepping away from SmackDown to focus on his charitable endeavours instead. The quote from JBL was, after much consideration, I'll be stepping back my weekly role as SmackDown announcer to dedicate more continuous time on the work I've done since 2010 with at-risk kids in the community. My new schedule will allow me to continue to be part of the WWE family, so I'm guessing he'll still be bring it to the table, I guess, when he can. And also continue his work that he feels is more important. I'll continue my 20-year relationship with WWE and will appear on Tribute to the Troops and WrestleMania, amongst others. Oh, so maybe not bring it to the table. Interesting. So we'll see. And they obviously announced this week as well, and as we found out with SmackDown, Corey Graves, at least for the time being, is doing double duty. So fair play to him. That means he's doing 5 hours every week. And then for pay-per-views, wow. Hey, if he's willing to do it and isn't going to lose his voice and everything, fair play to him. From what it felt like, it's like Corey's really proving that he's a damn good color commentator. So I approve greatly. Ring of Honor announced that Kushida will be defending his Ring of Honor TV title against Kenny King at the Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view in Vegas. So with the combined results, at least it's worth noting that with the women, Bianca Belair was first or tied for first in every single category except for the 10-yard reverse ground start sprint, which she finished second to Ember Moon. Ember Moon was up there as well, but Bianca Belair was really good in terms of her fitness stuff and everything. Obviously, Owen's been very critical of her work, and I've been very critical of her work. When we talk about the Mae Young Classic, in the next day or so, depending what order the videos go up, I might have changed my mind on her. For one match, which we'll talk about. Mike Canales tweeted a thank you to everybody at the Performance Center for allowing him to train there for the last couple of days. Obviously, he's coming back from the fact that he's basically openly admitted that he was hooked on painkillers and whatever in his previous stuff. Probably not Ring of Honor, but more than likely during his time in GFW, because, they don't give a damn. It's also worth mentioning that Eric Young did a column for ESPN and noted that Michael Hayes led the meeting prior to TakeOver Brooklyn 3 and dedicated it to Ric Flair. Considering how good the show was, fair play. In his latest blog update, Shibata wrote that his treatment and rehab's going well, and that he's able to do more things that he wasn't able to since, sustaining the injury that he did. Apparently, Joey Matthews is back wrestling, so they're contemplating doing a M&M reunion at some point. They're going to be doing a match together for All Pro Wrestling in Daly City, California, very soon. There's a new museum opening in New York in 2018 called Poster House, and the creators looking at doing an exhibition of historic Lucha Libre posters for 2019. So that sounds like an interesting prospect, because some of the artistry that is in those posters is pretty awesome. Ring of Honor have also announced that they're going to be doing shows in November. The 11th in Fort Lauderdale, and the 12th in Lakeland in Florida, and then the next week they got heading for a free run show in Texas. The 17th of November they're going to be in San Antonio. Dallas on the 18th of November, and Oklahoma City on the 19th. I guess that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, more than likely. That might be some of the last shows that they've actually got before Final Battle. Depends how they schedule it and everything. The thing they have mentioned as well, and it's probably further down in my notes, those two Florida shows in November, Kenny Omega's going to be a part of. He's going to be on those shows, for sure. Now Ric Flair posted a video up, basically saying, to all my fans out there, let it be known that Nature Boy's back up and running, looking as only I look. I want to tell my fans, thanks for all the love and support, and I'll see you in the very near future. He said very a lot, but, you know, there you go. Apparently, bloody Billy Graham got in a hissy fit because he had a shirt on saying, I'm not dead yet, motherfuckers. It's supposed to be a tongue-in-cheek thing. It's not supposed to be treated as actual bloody literal. Whatever. Darren Young was back in action this weekend on the house shows, involved in a battle royal, which was won by Jason Jordan, where the winner would challenge Miz for the IC title later in the night. I'm not sure which house show that was on, but at least he's back in action, which is good to see. Nikki had an interview with the Inside the Ropes guys, saying that she hopes that her and Brie will be returning together in 2018, or sooner if possible. But her surgeon has said that she can't be in full-time in wrestling anymore. So this is the interesting one. So WWE's been putting short video clips for the first round of the Mae Young Classic, because obviously the second round only went up in the last couple of days. The match between Dakota Kai and Kavita Devi, at least as of the time of the report being written last week, had about 1.5 million views, with the next one being Princess Sasuke versus Kaylee Ray with 100,000. Apparently the main reason why people are saying that there's such a vast difference in the numbers is the Kavita Devi, because she's Indian. That video was actually embedded on Indian news sites, as they were making it out as a big thing that she was there, and obviously people would have seen it on the news sites, which obviously would count as more views. So that's why WWE wants to go for India. It literally is because of YouTube views, not realising that nobody's going to pay for it, because that's the reason they're watching it, because it's on YouTube. Secretly, I'm hoping it's because everybody likes Dakota Kai. I know it isn't, which is annoying, but, like, thing is as well, probably the best match from that first round, which I'll get to on another video, the Kairi Sane versus Tessa Blanchard one only had like 46,000 when the report was done. It was like, oh, that's nice. Jack Gallagher received 4 stitches apparently after that no DQ match with Kendrick back on last week's 205 Live. Now this is an interesting one, which I guess I'll have to talk about next week, because I can't hold off the video for too long. GFW will be addressing the Sexy Star Rosemary Triple Mania stuff on this coming Thursday's episode of Impact. So, who knows what's going on with that? And a nice little touch. Bola, the show, the wrestlers involved with the show are going to sign the turnbuckle pads, or sign the turnbuckle pads after the show was finished on the Sunday, and they're being auctioned off to raise money for the charity supporting those that have been affected by Hurricane Harvey. Who knows whether we're going to need another one for Hurricane Irma, because, like, it's getting bad. Worth noting that Jeff Cobb, Walter, and Jonah Rock trained with Josh Barnett in LA, while being over there, obviously, for Bola. Renee's happy enough not being on colour commentary, apparently, for SmackDown. She put out a tweet. This was before the Corey thing got fully announced and everything. So apparently in her and her dad's book, Charlotte is basically talking about her story of overcoming domestic violence. If it doesn't name names, Bram, that's all I'm saying. So, yeah, as it stands, at least, obviously now, by retaining the title and probably not defending it next week and not until No Mercy, Miz is more than likely going to be beating Honky Tonk's man's record of 454 days holding the title in total. Because I think as it stands, he's sort of like 447, 448 now, I think. So probably, you know, certainly by No Mercy, he'll have beaten that. He'll be nowhere near Pedro Morales, because he's got like 619. He'd have to have it for another, what, close to half a year in order to make that up. But you never know, that might happen down the line, because obviously Miz has had that belt 7 times. That's ridiculous. I mean, sometimes it was like stupid, sort of like he only held it for like a day or so, but there you go. Ho-Ho Loons announced that he can take bookings worldwide, apparently. So that's now a thing. Now this is the interesting one. WWE is working Christmas Day and New Year's Day for Raw. And there was a lot of people saying, oh my god, including myself, if you listen back to the last Raw review, it's like, oh my god, they don't get a rest. Or as I put it, slave driving. Turns out we don't have to blame the WWE for it. USA Network has said they want WWE live, they don't want it pre-recorded. So it's the television broadcaster's fault. I sort of understand New Year's Day, because they obviously won't have competition that week, because all the NFL games are being done on New Year's Eve. But part of me also wonders whether Christmas Day is wise, because it's still going to be going up against Monday Night Football that night, along with the basketball games that are traditionally happen on Christmas Day and that are pretty popular. So, all in all, I'm not entirely sure it's the right move. I mean, we'll find. The thing it's worth noting, and I'll talk about it more when we actually get to the main product review stuff, you know, your SmackDowns, your GFWs, your Lucha Undergrounds and all that in an upcoming video. They really seem to be making next week's SmackDown pretty stacked, which I think is them to test the waters. Because obviously, okay, they went live last year before the NFL stuff had really happened, but it was only like a few months and there wasn't that much, obviously, potential and, you know, stuff going for it. As it currently stands, obviously, Monday nights they're going to be going up against Monday Night Football. So it's going to be pretty hard for them in terms of getting good viewership. However, Tuesday is practically unopposed. So next week, you know, and I'll go into more details on this, but Vince is going to be back. And they seem to be building to a lot of things which could be very interesting in terms of the future of SmackDown for the next few months over the NFL period. So part of me is now thinking they're going to try and focus on SmackDown to maximize the viewers out of that, rather than focus on the other stuff. Which part of me then also wonders as well. That, of course, is the show that's going to be also comprising of, at least after SmackDown, the finals of the Mae Young Classic. So I think that's partially why the push happened. Speaking of the Mae Young Classic, Ronda, Jessamine and Marina of the Four Horsewomen of MMA did a recorded backstage segment with Charlotte, Becky Lynch and Bayley of the Four Horsewomen of WWE. And Rousey basically said anytime, anywhere. And the WWE Horsewomen just looked and walked out. So the build has started, everybody. More John Cena rumours. Apparently he might be Captain Marvel, which is an interesting move. So Sexy Star put her own version of events as to what went down at Triple Mania. Basically, she didn't know that Rosemary was injured until after the match and didn't think it was serious because nobody was tending to her. Hasn't been given any medical news, and also said that media reports were inconsistent, saying that some said it was her elbow, some said it was a whole arm. Basically making a load of excuses. The farcical thing is Triple Mania's statement or non-statement on the issue. Because Triple A's Facebook page tweeted, "Here's Lady Shani. She's automatic #1 contender for the vacant Reina de Reinas title." So yes, they haven't directly said that Sexy Star has been stripped of the title. They just said Lady Shani can get a chance at winning the vacant title at Heroes Immortales 11. So that's it. That's basically it. That's the non-statement from AAA of Sexy Star being stripped of the belt. Also, if you look at the translated version, which it's worth noting, she isn't very clearly proficient in English, or even getting anybody to help her to make sure it makes sense in English, because the majority of the hate coming to her is from mostly English speaking. Obviously there's some hate from Spanish speaking and everything as well, but yeah, the statement is that there isn't one. They're just making sure you try and forget who she is. So who knows? Also, in a better note, well, perhaps not, Yoshihiro Takayama, who suffered major paralysis after a bad move a few months back. The update is he's now mobile from the shoulders up, but he's still paralyzed, everywhere else, and the prospects are not good. There is a fundraiser called Takaya Mania, Takaya Mania. It's collecting funds for him and his family. I think there's the equivalent of a GoFundMe or whatever up online. So far as it stands, DDT, Pro Wrestling Noah, Dragon Gate, and All Japan are all starting to collect funds, along with the actual GoFundMe sort of bit itself. Donovan Dijak is officially signed with the company because he's at the Performance Center and preparing and everything. And then the big one that broke within the last day or so. Jeff Jarrett having to take an indefinite leave of absence to focus on personal matters, which clearly was pretty short notice, because Jarrett tweeted Tuesday morning, "Let's go, super excited for Impact and GFW." So the interesting thing is, and this is from P. Windsor, PW Insider, reportedly this decision was made by Ed Nordholm in person in Nashville, because he was going to be having an NFL Fantasy Draft party at his home today with basically the GFW staffers, but instead the staffers are having it at the GFW HQ. According to the sources and everything, basically they're unhappy with Jarrett and his erratic behaviour, apparently, and that's basically one of the big factors in the stuff. Rather than, it's more the behaviour rather than actually the creative direction and everything. The situation has apparently been building for months, and the final tipping point was actually Triple Mania, with Jarrett not being the best of shape, wrestling for only a few short minutes, and then going around ringside and mouthing off at the fans and whatever because he's trying to be heel. And it is worth noting that Ed actually was at that show, apparently. And that it all began from that bit, if you remember, a few months back when there were reports that Jarrett was screaming at Bob Ryder at a TV taping. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in terms of the situation. Yeah, I'll just read this bit off. It should also be noted that one source stated Jarrett was not blameless, but there was also blame to be thrown in all direction regarding the situation, and claimed a lot of things that Jarrett had been criticised for publicly was simply due to him following marching orders out of loyalty to Anthem after they brought him back. The source said that things that Jarrett had been blamed for, including defending Anthem when it came to the Broken Hardys, was simply Jarrett towing the company line. Mike Johnson knows there was a belief among some that Jarrett was trying hard to step in between Nordholm and the wrestling side of things, as Nordholm didn't get the business. One person used an example in a company going out of its way to bring in Alberto as a surprise by flying him secretly to Tampa and then bringing him to Orlando under cover of darkness, only for then Ed Nordholm to take a picture and tweet it out and ruin the surprise. So obviously Scott D'Amore and Dutch Mantell are still on board, but one source apparently has pointed out that Big John Gabornik is still with the company, and perhaps he is now the, quote, plan B if the Jarrett regime isn't working out. And P. Windsor confirms that John was at GFW's base, as well as their production studio, and hasn't been there in months, apparently. And there's belief with some people that a lot of power was gained by Gabornik through those deals, although some have obviously downplayed it. And interestingly as well, regarding GFW, one person says that the Anthem and GFW merger is nowhere near as completed as they're basically making it out. So basically the press release announced the merger a few months back, saying that Jarrett's got minority ownership. But trademarks for GFW and the letters are still listed as being owned by Jeff Jarrett, since the company was set up 3 years ago. So, if that's the case and Jarrett don't come back, GFW might not exist. And all of a sudden, GFW Impact is just going to have to become Impact again. So they're going to have to change their name again. So if Anthem was using the letters without having ownership, all they did was raise the profile of GFW, which, you know, in hindsight is really stupid. The status of Alberto is also in question, as sources indicate that Nordholm was willing to cut bait on Patron after the airport incident, while Jarrett was intimately involved in calming the situation. With Jarrett out of the picture in less than a year, believed to be left on Alberto's deal, it may not be when Alberto comes back, but if. Because there was some belief that it was going to be that Alberto was going to come back to feud with Jeff, because obviously Jeff is the figurehead of GFW. So who knows? Interestingly, Rebecca Hardy responded to this, /Rebby. Said, "You're tripping if you think I'm anything but laughing at the misfortune of somebody who went so out their way to F with my family. Not going to get a fake response out of me. You'll be doing the same thing if you're in my shoes." Apparently GFW today have done a media call with John Hennigan, Johnny Impact, whatever. So it'll be interesting to see what comes from that. So we'll see. So the other news, and I think I'm going to be making this into a separate video and just sending it off, and then I'll record after saying at the start this is going to be indies and news, it's going to be just news, I think, at least for this week, because there's obviously a lot to have gone through, because I want to get a video out for today, and you know, if there can be a couple of videos on Thursday, so be it. So, yeah. That's what you're getting for now. This is going to be only news. Which is a bit awkward from what I said at the start, when I said it was going to be indie and news, by adding in the news and then realising this is just going to be news. Because, yeah, this is like 50 minutes. It's like, no. So Braun thanked Big Show on Instagram for the cage match and called them the last of a dying breed. After how good the match was, it's fair. Reports are saying that Big Show is going to be getting surgery for a slight hip issue very soon. 2K had a new video. I don't know if they're announcing any more of the roster, which they might be because it's Wednesday. But the video that they released this time was looking at the new carrying system, which looks pretty intricate and possibly an interesting addition. We'll have to see how it plays. Okada was now the second longest running and reigning IWGP Heavyweight Champ, surpassing Great Muta. And admittedly, he's only got another 120 days or so to catch up with Tanahashi. So, I mean, he'll get close to that when we get to January the 4th. Whether he'll still be champ after January the 4th, we'll have to see. They've confirmed that DJZ is going to be part of the Evolve shows coming September 22nd in Michigan and September 23rd in Illinois, facing Fred Yehai and Darby Allin respectively on those shows. Bowler's available for pre-order now on DVD and Blu-ray. It's worth noting as well, you can at the minute pre-order / buy King of Trios on ShikaraPro.com. The Raw cuts are already available, which I'm amazed how quick that is, considering they were, you know, in the UK. They weren't in America. So WrestleCon posted the schedule for next year's WrestleMania weekend. We'll go probably through it more closer to the time, because Owen won't care about it because it's not in Orlando this year. It's worth noting, though, that on Friday, WrestleCon will be having a GFW show. That's, of course, if it's going to be called that anymore. Stuff that broke in the last few hours, at least before recording this. Kenny Omega's going to miss practically all of the Destruction tour. He suffered a left meniscus tear. So, he is still going to be having his IWGP US title defense against Juice Robinson on September the 24th. But for all the rest of the tour, Leo Tonga is going to be taking his place in basically the tag matches and everything, who is the brother of both Tama Tonga and Tangaroa, as well as the son of Haku. He's basically been training at New Japan since roughly like January. Before that, training at Team 3D's academy. And he's 6'8", which would make him the tallest guy of the roster. And he will be part of the show that's happening in the early hours of Thursday, teaming up with the Gorillas of Destiny to take on War Machine and Juice Robinson. So that's an interesting one. It will be, I guess, the ultimate Gorillas of Destiny, because it's all three brothers. Who knows? And then the final interesting little bit of news, at least in terms of the wrestling stuff. The MMA stuff I'll just bundle in with the MMA talk when we get to the big reviews and everything. Baron Corbin. It's now come out as to apparently why the D-push happened. And it's really interesting if you know your history of the NFL and concussions and WWE and Joseph Maroon. So, basically, it's another PW Insider article here that's talking about it. WWE management was apparently likely down on Corbin following a talent meeting that took place at the start of August. So, Joseph Maroon, who heads the wellness policy, was brought in by the company to discuss the importance of concussion-related injuries to the talents why they should be reported to WWE management ASAP. And during the meeting, Maroon brought up a recent study about dead NFL players who had been diagnosed post-mortem with CTE, in a way that apparently downplayed the study as being concrete proof that anybody that played football would develop CTE. So, they weren't saying, if you play football, you've got concussion. But certainly they were basically looking at the fact that concussions, if they do happen, need to be taken seriously. So Corbin, being a former NFL player himself, apparently cut off Mr. Maroon and expressed an opinion that challenged Maroon. Apparently Corbin argued there'd be some form of head trauma with every player, as football helmets were always cracking against each other. And then during the exchange, Corbin noted that he's part of a concussion-related lawsuit against the NFL, and that he knew Maroon was against CTE, leading to Maroon to state that the way he was depicted in that film, Concussion, was incorrect. It certainly said his depiction in a film about the incident was incorrect, which obviously probably is referring to concussion and whatever. So he agreed with Corbin that CTE was a problem, but was trying to make the point that the study didn't mean that all NFL players have CTE, and that everybody has got to put things into proper perspective. And Corbin obviously disagreed with it, and they went back and forth, which, according to sources, was, quote, awkward, quote, time standing still, and, quote, an awkward moment that led to awkward laughter, from 3 different sources. With a 4th source pointing out that it wasn't a case that Corbin was yelling or being belligerent, but perhaps expressing his opinions in the, quote, wrong time and wrong place to truly have the discussion. That same 4th source noted that the feelings that Corbin would have been better served by just pulling him over privately afterwards, as it wouldn't have taken away stuff from the matter at hand. And that the feeling is, but by voicing himself in front of the whole locker room as doing it privately, hurt the flow of the meeting and took the attention away from the importance of talent's health by basically making it all about Maroon's past comments. So Maroon was defending himself rather than educating the roster. And a few wrestlers were impressed by the speaking out, because it's not something that's very often done. So basically the belief is that perhaps the company wasn't happy with the nature of the raising of the voice and, discussing the issue. So that might be why he was depushed. It's an interesting move. So I think, given that I'm nearly close to the hour, that'll be the news. That's obviously 2 weeks and a lot of detailed stuff covered there. So, upcoming videos. There's at least 3. There's the indie one, where I'll be talking Bowler, King of Trios, including my personal experiences from the final night of King of Trios, along with AIW, and previews of New Japan stuff. Won't be able to fully preview the Korakuen Hall show for the Thursday, because depending when the video goes up, it won't be up in time. But certainly we've got a show Saturday, and the first of the big 3 Destruction shows with titles on the line coming up. Dragon Gate Japan will be covered, and Rev Pros, their results, along with the AIW one that I may or may not have mentioned. Also, just quickly mentioning it here in case you're interested, I'll have details on this coming weekend's events from Southside Wrestling, Alpha One Wrestling, CWF Mid-Atlantic, WSU and CZW's doubleheader, Wrestle Circus, Progress Wrestling, which is sold out anyway, but I'll shout that out as much as I can. And just as I hit the hour mark, there you go. That's your hour, I guess. So yeah. So there'll be an indie-centric show. There'll be a mainstream show, if you want to call it that. So I'll be covering NXT, Lucha Underground, last week's Impact from September the... Actually, no, August 31st. I take it back. It was still August back then. SmackDown and 205 Live, Ring of Honor, and WCPW's Loaded, as well as the UFC news and results from the Netherlands card and previewing the upcoming pay-per-view this weekend. And then the third video, all on its own, will be dedicated completely to the Mae Young Classic, as all 8 episodes that have previously been taped are available for you to watch. I'm going to try and time that to come out, if I can, sort of early Friday-ish, because if you haven't seen it on the network and you're not binge-watching it, I know that on Thursday they are showing all 8 episodes of the Mae Young Classic back to back, all that from I think 1 Eastern through to 9 Eastern, with the 8 to 9 being the final one of the 8. Of course, they've already had episode 5 on Monday and episode 6 Tuesday after 205 Live. Episode 7 is airing after NXT after NXT airs on tonight, Wednesday. And then Thursday, it'll be the end of the marathon as well. And I don't know whether they're doing the marathon again, but yeah. Obviously, people have already seen it. I've already seen, I think, like, the first 6 episodes. I'll be catching up with the 7th and 8th. In the next day or so. So, there will be a review and analysis of all that to build up to Tuesday and the Mae Young Classic finale. After SmackDown's on. So, yeah. There you go. Long-ass video from me. Probably takes at least 59 million hours to send over to Owen. I don't know what the next video is. Probably it's going to be the indie stuff. Yes. I'll see you on the next video. I guess that's all I've got to say about that. I don't know whether I'm legally allowed to say that. But I guess I just did.